What are we seeing right now? How does an attack happen, in this case, on two of the largest steel plants in Iran? Let's go into the details of what is known, but obviously this is tremendous. Some reports blamed Israel, others the United States. Apparently it was both. The United States and Israel reportedly bombed two major steel plants in Iran, an attack already confirmed by Iranian media themselves. The targets were also the Khuzestan plant and the Mubarakeh steelworks. Let's get into the details. Let's look at the map. And what is Israel saying in this case? There's a statement from that country about what is expected for Iran. Look, first of all, let's get into the details of what's happening. One of the areas would be this one. Let's see if we can zoom out a little. I think this is in this area. Let's see if we can put it on the screen. It's here. It's very close to Iraq. See? That would be one of the areas, and then another that's in Khuzestan, and also another one that's in Mubarak. Let's see where it is to see how widespread the attacks were. But obviously, well, this is tremendous, isn't it? And we'll probably see a reaction from Iran, but we surely won't see it. This is the other area, some here and others over here. I mean, they're more or less in a range of about 300 or 400 kilometers apart. The attacks on two steel plants inside that country. They say this is in response to or against the interception of 3 ships from the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz carries approximately a liter, 1/5 of the oil, as you know, and of the gas. On this occasion, there are several messages that catch my attention. In this case, first we see this and then we go to a message from the Iranians. It's a message from Israel. Let's listen.
The activity of the Israeli Defense Forces in Iran against security and military targets continues without interruption. We will continue hunting the leaders and commanders of the terrorist regime and destroying their strategic capabilities. Prime Minister Netanyahu and I warned the Iranian regime to stop launching missiles at civilians in Israel. Despite the warnings, the attacks continue, so the Israeli Defense Forces strikes will escalate. And they will expand to other targets that help the regime build means of combat against our citizens. They will pay increasingly higher prices for this war crime. The home front and the Israel Defense Forces are strong, and we will continue to operate in Iran with all our strength until we achieve all the objectives of the war.
Let's examine what's happening and get into the details. It is now known that in this area, in the Strait of Hormuz, 26 strong internal ships had been launched or allowed. And we will continue to act, our strength will go. But what they report is that this toll, first, has a very high cost, which many places do not want to pay, and besides, there are risks. Obviously, this is not being fulfilled. All those from what they report is that this route is practically controlled by the Iranians, at least for now. And at the same time, a message is sent from the Iranians saying the following. Let's listen.
Muslim. Let them stay at these bases so we can cause more harm to the Americans. For any reason, do not give shelter to the Americans. Your land is respected by us, your national sovereignty is respected by us, but even more respected than your land and your sovereignty for us is our own people. Your people are also important to us. These people are Muslims. We are one community. We have no intention for Muslim blood to be shed, for it to be shed. Que se derrame.
Well, let's see. This is a message that the Iranian narrative has been insisting on, in which they say that they don't want Arab countries to give refuge to countries, to the United States specifically. Supposedly, we don't want to attack them. And this message comes at the exact right moment because it's already known that right now the Arab countries are preparing a move. But before that, there's a very strange meeting, honestly, a meeting that seems quite odd to me because of the way it was held. There was a G7 meeting, pay attention, but first of all, it was held in a sacred Christian place. There are many people there. At the G7, it wasn't just members. India was also present. I mean, if you want to look at it from the point of view of whether it's Christian or not, India is not Christian. And Saudi Arabia was also at the G7. And do you know who wasn't there? Who wasn't invited? Let's go into the details of what is known. Let's not go into the details of who wasn't invited. But it is certainly striking that a meeting is being held in this place. And that, well, at the end of the day, what it shows is that, well, the G7 says it is concerned that this could escalate even further. Even within the same meeting itself. He arrived, this Marco Rubio arrived, he was super late, he made them wait. Obviously, it's classic. The one who has the power often wants to give himself that luxury, let's say, of arriving late. And well, they send a very strange, very interesting message, considering that at the end of the day, the G7 is the 7 strongest economies, not counting China, obviously. There are several points I want us to analyze, and then we'll move on to other topics. No, but what really catches my attention is the G7, the way they've communicated, and who the guests were. In any case, let's put the image here, because I wouldn't want you to miss it. This is the moment we're going to see. Where Marco Rubio arrives first, there is Marco Rubio arriving. Yes, he hugs some people, this happens. In here, I have the information. It's called a monastery named Vaux de Carnay. It's a monastery from the 17th century located in the town of Carnay-la-Ville. Yes, look, it's a monastery where the G7 meeting is held, and they say the following, or is that what you know? At least so far, the meeting of foreign ministries, the G7 one, marked by obvious diplomatic tensions, was quite unusual. That it took place in a monastery, South Africa was not invited. South Africa was the partner that was not invited. It is believed that it's because lately there have been many differences with that country over the issue of gas. Yes. So they left this country out of the G7, which in theory was going to be invited. It was a country that was supposed to be invited. They say now that Saudi Arabia and India went, even though they're not in the G7. By the way, the summit was held in a very symbolic place, an abbey, the Vaux de Carnay, a 17th century monastery in France, which has great religious symbolism. And it has, well, generated multiple interpretations, like with this theory that this conflict is partly a religious conflict. That's why it draws attention. Obviously, there's Japan, for example, which isn't Christian. And there's also, of course, Saudi Arabia and India, which aren't Christian either. But anyway, let's say it generated controversy. Obviously, there's no debate. So more sanctions regarding the energy issue. Is that being discussed? These countries also issued a statement to tell the Iranians to stop attacking Arab countries. That was the main statement, that Saudi Arabia does not attack Arab countries because otherwise there could be greater consequences. And this could also be seen as a kind of warning. Let's go now. Here's what's happening with the Arab countries, because it seems that the Arab countries in fact are already heading toward war. Let's go there. There has been a meeting where Saudi Arabia is already indicating that the conflict will be opened. The United Arab Emirates also announces that it will deploy its armed forces to create a security force in Hormuz. What no one has done so far, is to protect the Strait of Hormuz. The United Arab Emirates is the most affected, the closest. At least, they assure that they are already deploying a security force in this area to protect the Strait of Hormuz. Pay attention to that, okay? Abu Dhabi is pressuring dozens of countries, the United Arab Emirates, telling other countries you also have to support. Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, Jordan, Saudi Arabia itself, Kuwait would have to support this project, let's say. They are still waiting for the resolution, which in theory will be decided between today and tomorrow. Between today and tomorrow. It's known whether there was a negotiation or not. It's very likely that there wasn't. So, the United Arab Emirates and apparently an alliance of Arab countries would be coming into conflict? What other reactions are there? So far, as far as I can see right now, I see that there is a reaction from the United Arab Emirates and also a reaction from Saudi Arabia. They have also responded already. It says the following. Saudi Arabia is not only preparing for the next phase, but is also pressuring the United States to intensify attacks against Iran. That the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, president, or well, let's say the leading prince of Saudi Arabia, does not stop. Wouldn't he have told Donald Trump not to shorten the war, considering that he says it's a historic opportunity to reshape the Middle East? Currently, the war between the United States, Israel, and Iran has lasted almost, well, it's already, or in a few hours, it will be a month. On March 28, it will be a month since the war started. The beginning of the war went by really fast. Iran says, well, it has been heavily attacking Saudi oil infrastructure with drones, including the Jambu refinery. And this caused a lot of anger because the Jambu refinery, look at where it is. To give us an idea, the Jambu refinery in Saudi Arabia is in the Red Sea. In other words, Iran is already attacking areas on this side. Not just the Persian Gulf anymore, but it's already attacking. In other words, it's like saying, I can hit you over there too. Not just because I'm here close to the Gulf, I can hit you right here. And it can even hit the refinery you have on the other side. And that, well, it's like crossing the line of all lines. And Saudi Arabia is really angry about that, right? On the other hand, it's also noticeable that different attacks in Iran are intensifying. But today Israel sent a very strong message because Israel is announcing that they are going to intensify attacks against Iran in the coming days. What follows is unprecedented. The Israeli Air Force has already started. Well, let's talk now about the issue of the surgical plants. But they are also attacking naval weapons production, missile factories, and air defense systems. Ballistic missile factories, military bases, and centers for the production of key components for Iranian weaponry were also attacked. Iran responded by launching more missiles toward Israel against civilians, even using cluster bombs. The United States is reportedly considering making an announcement in the coming days in which they could confirm the deployment of the additional 10,000 soldiers, which is a topic that is still kind of up in the air. It hasn't happened yet, right? Meanwhile, this is the message that this blonde guy gives about the issue with Iran. Let's listen to what he has said.
Are troops being sent to the Middle East, sir? What role could they play besides paving the way for a possible ground invasion? And while you mentioned several weeks, are you concerned that this could involve the United States in the kind of prolonged conflict? Excuse me, that President Trump promised to avoid when he took office.
This is not going to be a prolonged conflict. In the objectives that I have laid out for you, again I repeat them because I see these reports as if the United States did not have clear objectives. We have been as clear as possible from the very first night about what the objectives of this mission are. We will destroy their missile and drone factories, their Navy and Air Force. We will strike their launchers so they can't use them as a shield to obtain nuclear weapons. We are achieving all those objectives. We are ahead of most of them, and we can achieve them without ground troops, without any. Now, as for why there are deployments, first of all, the president has to be prepared for multiple contingencies, which I'm not going to discuss in the media. And again, I refer you to the Department of Defense, which will probably tell you exactly the same thing. But we can achieve all our objectives with our ground troops, but we will always be prepared to give the president maximum optionality and the greatest opportunity to adjust to the conditions. Again, I refer you to the president in case anything comes up.
Well, that's part of what Marco Rubio says, not pointing in that direction. By the way, he also made a comment about Cuba at one point and we heard it.
So they can join the 21st century. It's sad that the only place where Cubans can succeed is if they leave the country. That's something very sad. Do you see Cubans going all over the world and finding success except in Cuba? That has to change, and for that to change, we have to change the people. And again, the president, we have to change the system that runs the country, and we have to change the economic model that it's following. That's the only way forward if Cuba wants a better future. We have expressed it clearly and repeatedly for many years, and maybe now there is an opportunity to do it. We'll see.
Well, that's what the Secretary of State of the United States says about the Cuba issue. Obviously, it also draws attention. Another matter that is also interesting is that this attack is being reported. Because we already talked about the attacks by the United States and Israel in Iran, but Iran keeps responding and Iran also keeps attacking. Vemos esto en Kuwait. Let's listen well.
حتى المطر والخير
Thank you.
نعمة ربي اللي احنا ننتهي.
Well, let's see. According to the report, according to what they've been saying, they've been attacking this area with drones. Now, many of these attacks, many of these shots that have been fired are targeting infrastructure, especially energy infrastructure. Now, what has been confirmed, or at least what Kuwait is saying so far, is that they have been attacked with drones that have hit the Mubarak al-Kabir port. They have caused damage, mainly material damage, but there are no reports. They are not reporting that these fires have spread because there were comments that these fires had supposedly spread to other areas. This seems to be what hasn't happened, but Kuwait has confirmed the attacks. Mainly with drones, more than missile drones, although they also mention possible ballistic missiles. But anyway, there are the damages that have been shown, at least that's what has been reported from that region of the world. Another issue, which is also this one, is tremendous. It's another image, but this one is from the other refinery I was telling you about, which would be this one. And we saw at the beginning one of the videos, more videos of this are starting to come out. This is the one from Mubarak, I think, at least that's what it is. What they're reporting is that these are part of the hydrocracking plants that were attacked. I insist, that's also part of the operations that are going to be carried out now, he says. According to the video, it would show smoke coming out of the Mubarak steel plant in Isfahan. That's over in Iran. So it's not two refineries, but steel plants. Very likely for the same reason, because that's how we've been seeing it. It's just that a response might be given. That's how it's been so far. They don't attack just one thing, so they try to kind of match the attack, at least from the perspective they have right now. Another issue that also draws attention inside, more information keeps coming out about what's been happening with Hezbollah. Let's go into detail. More images keep being shown of where these Hezbollah depots and tunnels had been found under a church. This is a church in Qiyam. They have been scanned by the Givati Brigade. They revealed that there is an underground route with 3 newly excavated shafts, which indicates that it's an infrastructure that had been reactivated during this past year and a half. The military claimed that the place had been evacuated in December, that is December 2024. It had been evacuated. This church, yes, a Christian church, right? So the church is evacuated, and then Hezbollah uses that Christian church to make those tunnels, right? It's a topic that stands out among the reports that call on the Israel Defense Forces. Today, it's that they already had shelters, even with tunnels already designed, with everything, with concrete all around and everything already finished. Although they say, or they believe that they are recent. But they assure that since that date, the end of 2024, they have already realized that this group has readapted, using civilian buildings to hide, to make shelters, and so on. No, so in this case, a Christian church that's used for that, that's what that radical group uses it for. Now, the pattern of the videos continues, just like the United States also releases its ZCOM videos in slow motion. These are almost like action movie videos. The good thing? There are also still videos coming out from the Iranians themselves showing their training, showing a bit of the kind of operations they could carry out. Not a little. Showing images here with helicopters and things like that, kind of like Rambo. The constant messages keep coming like that too, right? The White House also announced this publication, where it says something is coming soon. They've been posting some kind of curious images. It was all just an announcement, just to announce or put this out in the media. They're talking about a new White House app, where basically Donald Trump is looking to control the narrative a bit more. They want the reports to go directly through them and not include any criticism they don't like or that doesn't suit them. So, well, that's basically what the White House is reporting. This message is being announced, and it's going to be like this, with a constant campaign that America is back to investing. There's the other one, it's not like the usual. And also, well, I'm sure the Air Force is reporting it too. Israel and the Israeli Air Force wouldn't show that they intercepted 90% of the Iranian drones. This is also what they report about those who launched the flying axis from Lebanon. Most of them are destroyed. Don't they show these videos? Hey, but if not, if it's 90%, then there's 10% that does get through, right? Isn't that 10% hitting different areas? And it's an issue that is obviously, I imagine, concerning for the people who live over there. And well, let's take a look at this too, right? The force says Israel is said to have launched a new wave. Right now, a new wave is being reported. This is in Beirut, in the south of Beirut, against Hezbollah. Explosions are also starting to be heard, it says. This morning, Hezbollah stated that its members are confronting the Israel Defense forces, which moved into a village called Al-Biadet. This is a village in Sama. I'm sure they've commented, well, from the details that have been circulating a few moments ago, we'll mention this post while observing. Let's see what else is known about this. Meanwhile, it's being shown, it's been posted on some networks, these Iraqis, not the others. Right here, very close, right where I am, just wow, could it be about 500 meters away? There's the stadium where Iraq is playing against, what's their name? Who will it be? Bolivia, right? Bolivia? But well, there have been exchanges between Mexican fans and the Iraqis, right? They've been taking pictures together over there. They came from Iraq, they flew from Iraq to watch the game, and they also flew in from Bolivia. Obviously, right now, there's a community from Iraq in the hotels, a community from Bolivia, and obviously, I suppose, from the south as well. And even though they've already lost, I imagine they're on their way back. But anyway, thanks for the greeting, Juan Pablo. Hello, Blanca, Marcelo, how have you been? Very good. That's how it is. Let's focus on other important matters. Notice that within these Christian churches I was talking about, there are already a few more details, he says. They have tracked that the Agibate and Al-Qitam brigades, the Israel Defense Forces troops, have found that some churches, Christian churches, have been used this as a plan, he says, to hide. Well, obviously, he says, the insertion of military bases among the civilian population is increasing more and more. Schools, churches, or even, well, civilian infrastructure have been used in parallel. Well, Israel Cat says that the offensives against Lebanon are going to increase. Well, I think that was obvious. Meanwhile, there is a very curious recommendation that the United States government is making to its people. Notice what they're saying. The United States government is recommending this. Pay attention. With this, they're suggesting to reduce driving speed and choose remote work in response to the sharp increase in oil prices. Didn't Donald Trump say there was no issue? That rising prices didn't matter and nothing would happen? Now they're saying something different. It's better to just work, go home, and when you go out, drive slowly so you don't use too much gas. I mean, the recommendation is fine. I mean, saving a little is okay, but this isn't a normal situation. I mean, the fact that they're telling you to slow down or work from home obviously shows that there's something else going on, like the closure of the Strait. They're realizing this will last a while and there could be a fuel shortage. Despite what has been insisted, the price of gasoline went up by about 20% in just 1 month. This is in the United States. The price of a barrel of oil is over $100. A moment ago, we saw that it was at $108. It's impressive, honestly. I mean, and it's about to reach $109. There it is, 108.79. Yeah, I mean, this is crazy. And it's curious, honestly, that they're saying they're taking those precautions. I get it in the Philippines and India, since they have few reserves and don't produce oil. But here, it seems really extreme. By the way, just before we go to the comments, it's now confirmed that Ukraine, since everyone knew they formed an alliance but the details were unclear, what happened? Well, it's confirmed that Ukraine has already signed an air defense cooperation agreement. The main goal is for Ukraine to share its experience in fighting Iranian Shahed drones. These drones have been used by Russia against Ukraine and by Iran in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia reportedly aims to strengthen its defense against attacks on its oil infrastructure. Ukraine has developed very cost-effective and efficient defense systems after years of war, and Ukrainian military experts have been sent to Gulf countries for consultation. So, well, that agreement has already been signed. They're already working on it, according to what they say. Let's go to the comments. A big hello, how have you been, friend of the month? Greetings, how have you been, Bresica, Eliseo, Gabriel? A very big greeting. Hello, Juan Pueblo? Is Juan Pueblo actually Juan Pablo, not Juan Pueblo? Greetings, Eutimio. What's up? How have you been, Blanca? And yes, Trump extended the negotiations until April 6th, so this weekend is going to be intense, says Blanca. How have you been, Blanca? I'm friend of the month. Greetings all the way to Spain. Very good. What's up? Greetings. Well, let's see what happens in the next few days, but it's definitely going to be interesting. Is there the idea or the hope? Maybe in these negotiations they can at least resolve the issue of the Strait, but nothing more, because I think the Strait is the part that, for the Iranians' perspective, the part that marks a result allows them to put pressure on the conflict. That's how I see it. From a bit of a distance, I don't know what you think, but I feel like the Iranians are saying, well, I mean, you can already see the pressure, you can see how the world is upset with this conflict. Why would they stop? I mean, and on top of that, there's the added pressure of the World Cup that's about to start. So, well, there's that too. The fact that there's so much talk about the conflict and not about the World Cup, that's not exactly a positive thing, because in the end, it's a huge event that only happens every 4 years. And, well, what people are going to talk about isn't the beautiful infrastructure you have, but whether something is going to happen or not. No, there's already a report of a cyber attack that happened to the FBI by a group that's linked to the Iranians. We'll talk about that later, but it's a really crazy topic because it shows that things are actually happening. And actually, the real concern is going to be that not what's going to happen with something else. It's also that some of the countries that are going to be in the World Cup are or have these kinds of things, like some really strange sanctions where visas cost them around $15,000 each. So it's something that's not sustainable. I mean, they can't afford it. So that's also why Federación Internacional de Football Association had asked for an exception to be made for those people. I mean, the technical staff, the players, I mean, well, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen in that sense, right? Or he says they should inform the population on how to prepare, says Gato. Good point there. Greetings. Very good. The high school that Putin mentions says, Luz, how are you, the high school? I know that among Ukraine as an advisor, it says there, it would make Russia get involved too. He says, no, well, Russia, and it got involved. I mean, Russia is already there, but really involved. I mean, for them to get directly involved now, well, no, I don't see it. I don't see it happening easily because they lack personnel, they lack planes. What could they bring in? They're really just helping with intelligence. That's a strong point for the Russians, which Iran doesn't have very well. Regarding satellites and things like that, it's not really extraordinary either because the Russians have struggled a lot with communications inside Ukraine, but they're also struggling for another reason because what Ukraine has done is work a lot on cyber warfare. Right? So they've blocked a lot of the signals in the area. So if you have those jammers, you've already set it up. The point is that's what Ukraine is selling now. I mean, Ukraine is selling jamming systems. These, like Jackie or whatever they're called, basically create a kind of circumference where there are no cell phone signals, no drone signals, and things like that. So it drives the drones a little crazy, or even deactivates them. That's why they're now using this fiber optic thing, that really long fiber optic cable. Same thing, the Russians do the same thing to Ukraine. They try to do that too, but they're just limited. That's why they attack refinery areas, because you can't protect such a large area. It's more complicated there. So they attack refineries that are far away. But well, that's part of the show. Health says community attention. The lack of fertilizers is already affecting the production of key foods, like wheat, corn, and rice. The future has begun. Prepare now for tomorrow's change, he says. Jalala. Great comment. Cheers, Jalala. Yes, indeed, there is that problem with fertilizer, which is another issue. Also very, very tough. I haven't seen it. Let's check if the Food and Agriculture Organization has a report proposing solutions for that issue or any updates. Later, we'll get to it for the poorest countries. I mean, countries that, well, don't have any other solution besides paying a high price or reducing production. All right, we'll watch that. Let's go for now and return with another update soon. Thank you very much for sharing, for being here. Greetings. Read Hijaraha. Yes. Greetings to Blanca Halala, to the whole Breseca community. Thank you all very much. See you in a moment. See you later.